Okay, so in this particular chapter, we'll talk about the Azure scale set. So the Azure scale set is basically the auto scaling mechanism that is available in Azure. Now it comes in two flavors. There is the custom and then there is the manual scale set. In this particular chapter, we'll talk about the manual scale set. So if you're using a manual scale set, then you can scale your virtual machine instances to a fixed number of instances. So let's say that you have a manual scale set of two instances. So at any moment in time, there will always be two instances within your manual scale set. Now you can also increase this manually to, let's say, 3 or back to 2 again. So if you do that, then there'll be another instance that is added to your manual scale set. So that is something that we will see in the upcoming example. You can also add health checks to your application within your manual scale set. So if in case one particular application goes unhealthy, then it will delete that particular instance and recreate a new one. So let's go ahead and let's see how a manual scale set is created in Azure. So I'll see you in the console.
Okay, let's create a virtual machine scale set. To do that, you can just search for virtual machine scale set here. And you'll find it here. Or you can go to your all services and you'll find it under compute. So under compute, you can find your virtual machine scale set. So let's open our virtual machine scale set and let's create one. So let's click on create. And I'll be using the VNet resource group. You need to give a name for your virtual machine scale set. So I'll just call this as VNet V scale set. It'll be in the east of US, none. And it's going to be an Ubuntu and the most basic size. And let's have this as a password. So as you can see, this is as good as creating a virtual machine, but there is an exception. So let's create this username first. Okay, let's go to next. So all this remains the same. And here I'll be using the VNet virtual network. Now the virtual machine scale set and the load balancer, they work hand in hand. But for this particular lecture, let's just leave it as unticked. I will show you how the load balancer works in the load balancing section. So let's just leave this as unticked for the time being. So now let's go to the most important part, and that is the scaling. And now here under scaling is the most important tab. So here the initial instance count is the number of virtual machines that will be created initially when you create this virtual machine scale set. And this is by default set to 2. And here there are two policies, the scaling policies, that there is one manual and then there is one custom. So if you set it to manual, there will be always two instance counts. There will be always two instances that would always be running in this particular virtual machine scale set. So let's just leave this to manual. In the next topic, we'll discuss the custom. So let's go to management. And the management here is akin to the management that you will find in creating a virtual machine. And here is the health check. So health check enables you to check the application for your particular virtual machine. So what this does is it'll do a ping on HTTP port 80. And if it returns a 200 response, that means the virtual machine is working properly. So this is just to check the application health and not the health of the particular server. So this is something that we'll use extensively as well. And then apart from that, let's go to advanced. And here under custom data, what I'll do is I'll copy the same script that we had used previously as well. So what this does is it creates a Express node application and it runs it on the background. So let's copy this. Now this particular script I will paste in the description below, so you can just have a look at this. So all that this does is it just creates a node web server and it runs it in the background. And let's go to our next. Click on review and create. And let's just validate all that let's just validate all the settings that we've made. So the initial instance count is going to be 2. So once we run this, there'll be 2 virtual machines that will get created. So there is also a health check. So what this health check, again, like I said previously, it'll just ping on port 80 on the web server that we'll create. And if it returns a 200, then this particular health check will pass, else it will fail. So let's create this virtual machine scale set. So our scale set has been created. So you can go to our instances now. And here you can check the status of your particular instances here. So you can see that there are 2 instances that have gotten created and they're both in the running state. And here the other thing you need to check is the health state. So the health state for this particular application is healthy. So what this means is that our web server is also running properly, the Node web application that we had created. So the next thing that we'll do is we'll go to our scaling section and we will change the instance count from 2 to 3. So currently I have 2 instances running. So if I change this to 3, then the scale set will create a new instance and there'll be a total of 3 instances that gets created. So let's click on save. And once that is done, if we go to our instances, and if you go back to the instances, you can see that there are 4 scale sets. So what happens is that there are 2 new virtual machines that get created, and out of the previous 2, one of them will get deleted. So there will be 3 total in total that's running. So let's just refresh this and let's wait for this particular process to complete. And now you can see that there are a total of 3 instances, and this is taking some time for this to turn healthy. So this is how you can scale up your application. And similarly, if you want to scale down, you can always change this from 3 to, let's say, 1, and it will be scaled down to 1. Now, if you do not want this process to be created in such a manner that one extra resource or one extra virtual machine gets created, you can always go to your configuration and you can enable the over provisioning. So here what happens is you can disable this over provisioning, and if you turn this to off, there will be always 3 resources that gets created instead of 4. So what this does is that whenever over provisioning is turned on, the scale set action spins up more virtual machines than you asked for and then deletes the extra virtual machine once the requested number of virtual machines are successfully provisioned. So if you do not want that to happen, you can always turn this to off, and then instead of 4, there will be only 3 resources that virtual machines that get created. So that's it for this lecture. In our next lecture, we'll talk about how custom auto scaling works. So I will see you in that particular chapter. So I will see you there.